huge Ray Brown fan. In fact, I wrote a book of transcriptions of his music that took me 20 years to get published. I'll tell you that story someday. Anyway, let's check out 3 of Ray's clever tools that will make our bass lines stand out. Welcome to Learn Jazz Bass with Matt Rabicki. If you're interested in learning more about how to play jazz bass, please subscribe to my channel. And like this video if you would, check out a link below for a free PDF related to today's discussion. So the first thing I want to talk about is something called spinning the wheels. And this is something that Ray himself called this technique. Let's check it out. Spinning the wheels is sort of like revving a car's engine before you put it into drive, right? Sort of like with a manual transmission, you're revving, and then you put it in drive and take off. So it's for building tension and release. You sort of build up this tension with these repeated notes and then let it go as you go into walking. It could be any note that you repeat over and over again, but Ray uses either the 5th of the general key center or the root of the chord where he's starting, generally the home sound. Either of those is very effective. In fact, the 5th is kind of maybe more effective because it's subverting the chords that are happening. Like in the first one, I think it was Mac the Knife, where the key is E flat, but he's playing the B flat over and over again. And then he lets it go. And he lets it go like that, right? So, and you can also, as I say, use the root and repeat it over and over again. But the idea is that it's really purposeful about building that tension and releasing it. So it's not quite as effective if you don't go into it with that intention. Spinning the wheels is also really more effective at a sort of higher tempo. So you want to go medium up to sort of faster. It doesn't work quite as well, in my experience, at a slower tempo. So in our play along that we'll do, we're going to have a slightly faster tempo than we had in the other examples. This is a play along, so I'll invite you to play along. I'm going to count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got a little Rayism that I call painting in tenths. I say painting because it adds color to the line, and tenths refers to a large interval. Specifically, a tenth is the third of a chord, an octave above the octave of the root. So if, for example, we have a D7, the third of the chord is F sharp, of course, and so if that would normally be played here at its lowest point, D, F sharp there, if we play an F sharp above the octave of the root here near the thumb position, that's a tenth. This technique doesn't all use tenths, but it just gave me something to call it. The idea is that you are leaping large intervals and using guide tones to sort of add some color to a normal progression of chords that move in fourths, like a 2-5. So for example, Ray is playing over an A minor 7 to D7. So Ray is playing the root of the A first, A, and then he's playing the flat 7, which is part of that minor chord, which is G natural, but he's playing it up the octave here at the thumb position. So A, flat 7, and then he's immediately connecting it by a half step to the high F sharp, which is the third of the next chord, D7. That's the third of D, and then he plays D. So root, flat 7, third of D, D. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. But it doesn't just have to go to these chords. It doesn't just have to be used on these chords. You can, of course, use it on wherever you want, really. But some other quick places to sort of grab it would be on other 2-5s. Like, for example, if you played E minor 7 to A7, you could do the same thing, just down a fourth. So open E, D is the flat 7, and then C sharp, and then open A. Another one you could do would be if you have a D minor 7, G7, so a 2-5 going to C, you could play D, and then the very high C, and then B right next to it, and then G. If you have a 2-5 going to F, G minor 7 to C, you can play the G, and then the high F natural is flat 7, E is the third of C, jump down to C. Or you can play it here. So, play it in tune though. Something like that. It's easiest to grab on open strings, of course, because you've got time to sort of move your hand to the higher and lower places that you need to go. It doesn't have to be 2 chords to a bar necessarily, and it doesn't, of course, have to be exactly this sort of pattern. In the Killer Joe example that we played earlier, you can hear that he's not actually playing these exact guide tones going from the flat 7 to the third, but rather sort of alluding to this general idea, making this large leap and playing something up here. So C, and then he goes to the high G, and then approaching the B flat is the next chord. So C, 5th, chromatic 5th, root, 5th, chromatic 5th, like that. So it's not exactly the same sort of recipe, but it still works the same because the effect is there. So let's use this tool in our G bass line again for the G blues. So play along with me and I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. tool that we'll look at today is something that I call clef diving, and this is instead of cliff diving. And the idea is that you are ascending in your line quite high on the fingerboard and then quickly diving down to lower octaves. In the example we just heard, Ray plays as high as the C above the G thumb position and then drops down to the open E. So G. That kind of leap really stands out and really leads to this same idea of tension and release. And like all the other pieces, it really needs swagger. And to be effective, you really need to have a lot of confidence and intention with this stuff. It's just not quite the same if you don't deliberately deliver this as an intended tool. So there's lots of ways, of course, that you can use this. There's nothing sort of special about any sort of ingredients or instructions on how to do it that are specific. But generally, if you can sort of use this effect, again, it's an effect. It's not necessarily something that outlines a chord or whatnot. It's really just an idea to add some tension and release to your line. So like before, let's play our bass lines on the G blues, and we'll use this idea of clef diving. Play along with me, and I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now you've got some tools for yourself that you can experiment with and add some color and interest to your bass lines. I hope that this made sense to you, and thanks for joining me today. As always, please subscribe and like this video if you would. Check that link for a free PDF, and always remember, straight ahead and strive for tone.